moving on from the debt ceiling before we bore everybody to death. This one will be really exciting. Oil prices.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of excited about this one.
Okay, this is actually going to be a good one. So, for those of you who are interested in investing in stuff, you do need to pay attention to what oil does because it affects all the other sectors directly.
Absolutely, it impacts so much. So when there's news in oil, you should be interested.
Yeah, it's front page news for finance. So OPEC met, I think it was last week. So OPEC is the oil and petroleum exporting countries.
But let's pause right there and reiterate for the audience here. You hear anything about them, and you should be listening.
Yeah, OPEC. You hear
whenever OPEC meets, you need to pause and try to figure out what's going on because it impacts so much in the world of investment. I mean,
yeah.
Obviously, if you have any investments directly in oil, but even so many investments that don't on the surface look like they have to do with that,
right?
They'll be impacted.
Right. So, and part of this is OPEC is basically the oil cartel. God, no, I mean that's just that's even a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
It's basically if you're into comic books, if you imagine like the Legion of Doom meeting in their secret hideout, that's kind of what OPEC is. I mean, they're scary people. Basically, it's Saudi Arabia, Russia, Venezuela. I forget who the others are. Is Argentina still in there? I don't know. But it's like 6 or 7 of these major countries. Yeah, but they're all the countries you'd be like, these are all countries we could potentially be at war with at any time. Right? So, but this affects the gas prices at the pump. It affects food prices. It affects everything. So anyway, OPEC met, and then kind of this is Reuters. They're doing a little special on this, but they wanted to sort of tackle in what the OPEC meeting was kind of about and what happened. So here we go.
Hello and welcome to Sectors Up Close. I'm David Pollard. Today we're talking about the outlook for crude oil markets, and my guest is Jim Mitchell, head of America's oil analysts at Refinitiv. Well, it could be a big week for those crude oil markets. OPEC and its allies, including Russia, meet in Vienna on June the 4th to decide on their output policy. The group, known as OPEC Plus, agreed in early April to increase crude oil production cuts. That surprise announcement helped push up prices by about $9 to above $87 per barrel over the days that followed, but Brent prices have since lost those gains.
Okay, so, hang on. Okay, so when you guys see this Brent, I see Brent. Brent is like S&P 500 for oil. This is the index for oil, right? So this is the benchmark that everybody looks at. So this is the futures market that they did. So OPEC back in April, they decided they were all going to cut the amount of barrels of oil they were going to release every month. Right, so they were going to do it to try and squeeze it and make the price go up, right? So we're going to squeeze supply so it doesn't meet demand, so the price has to go up, right? And as you can see, it worked, but not for very long. And then it shot down again. Now, what they'd like, ideally, is to go back to where they were $120 a barrel last year. But now they're down to 72, 79. So they're down almost $50 a barrel, which hurts them a lot financially. So that's what part of what OPEC's talking about is this has not been a good trend for them.
Since lost those gains. And in the very latest Reuters poll, analysts see Brent holding below $90 a barrel throughout this year as economic headwinds set in. So will OPEC Plus cut again? And what could it all mean for crude prices ahead? Well, joining me now to discuss just that is Jim Mitchell, head of America's oil analysts at Refinitiv. Welcome to Sectors Up Close, Jim. Now, Saudi Arabia has warned it wants to inflict pain on short sellers, what it calls an ouch moment. That must be a pretty clear signal of an output cut at this meeting, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't it high drama in the market right now? It's outstanding, with the speculators taking pretty sizable short positions. Well, I will say they have been decreased in the last 3 weeks. And actually, open interest in total has decreased in the last 3 weeks. those short positions have drawn the ire of, as you mentioned, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman.
Okay, so let's look at this graph real quick. Go back. This is not a price graph. This is a volume. Okay, so it's the volume of people that are buying what are called futures and options. But the reason this has gone up is the people are buying what are called shorts. They're betting against the price of oil going up. They're betting that it'll go down. And that has increased, especially since April, May, when the prices started going down again. And so that's really pissing off OPEC. So when they talked about Saudi Arabia and him doing what's called an ouch moment, they're doing it. So Saudi Arabia is now going to decrease by even more. They're going to decrease by another 1 million barrels a day. Now, the idea is this will drive up gas prices, the fuel oil prices, right? So they're trying to sit like right now. I think gas is $3.50 something a gallon at the tank on average throughout the U.S. Ideally for Saudi Arabia, just from your perspective as an investor, for Saudi Arabia, ideally you'd be over $5. And I'll throw this as a fun book out. There's a really interesting book called Blood for Oil that was written by a former CIA officer who worked in Saudi Arabia in the 80s and 90s. His name was Robert Baer. He doesn't tell you anything like classified, but he tells you sort of the outlook. And they did a study, and they figured for every 50 cents you spent on gas, 25 cents of that went to the Saudi royal family. Right? And half of that, like 12 cents of that, went to drugs, booze, hookers. That's how much they were blowing. So every time you spend $1 on gas, a quarter of it went to get some Saudi prince stoned and laid.
Oh, man.
There are lots of princes in Saudi Arabia. But just to give you a sense, so that's kind of what's going on. And so right now, Saudi Arabia is going to do that. Now, if they succeed, let's say it works. It might not, because Biden right now, we have replenished our petroleum reserves. So he could open them again. It wouldn't be a big issue to keep the price down, artificially down. On top of that fact, if you do that and prices go up, do consumers continue to consume at the same amount, or do they shuttle back, right, and consume a little bit less? And it's hard to guess now with millennials and Gen Z whether or not we go more frugal, because there's an issue. But even if he succeeds, then what's going to happen is inflation is going to start to climb back up again. The Fed might want to raise rates, which is going to cause more economic problems. And we're going to have to recede anyway at some point. So I don't know that this is a long-term solution for the Saudi. He might see like a dead cat bounce on this sort of thing, but I don't see it going much further than that. That's just my speculation. I could be wrong. That's just my guess. But I think it's kind of
We're going to find out.
Yeah, I think OPEC's lost a lot of its power, and especially as countries are moving more towards electric. We still burn a lot of gas for electricity, but we have a lot of other sources, and battery power has become a much more, especially with lithium and stuff, is much more efficient than it used to be. So we don't have to burn as much to get the same amount of energy output that we used to. And a lot of states have, like, I live in Oregon, it's, most of my power, like 70% of the power I get comes from hydroelectric.
Right.
Because we live near a massive river. The Willamette River. So, anyway, any thoughts on the oil stuff? Or?
No. I mean, I guess I'll just be curious to see if your prediction is right and to see kind of how this plays out.
Yeah.
I was just remembering back to sort of just early pandemic, pre-pandemic days when OPEC met, and the the Saudi Arabia decided they wanted to have a pissing match with the Russians and made all of the oil prices go crazy. And
Yeah.
I'm going to say I made some money on that. I was like, hey, there's some oil stocks there. They're on sale. Awesome. Pick those up. Now they've shot back up. So, I'm just kind of curious to see if your prediction on this one is right in particular.
Well, it's a short term bet, right? If you're doing a long term buy, I don't foresee oil going up a ton in the long term. I see it's probably going to stay pretty level. I think anymore, a lot of it's baked into the cake. And as, like you said, more of Europe and Japan and South Korea and the United States, we move towards electric fleets of cars. More people get solar on their houses and batteries and stuff. I mean, there's going to be less and less consumption. Yeah. And even then, we have a ton of oil reserves in this country that we could tap at any freaking time we wanted. We just don't.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, that's strategic.
People in general don't want to be held hostage by oil prices, so they're looking to, alternate and greener sources, so to speak.
Well, right, because it's cheaper.
Right. Some are environmentalists, but everybody cares about their wallet.
Right. It's cleaner, it's cheaper. Everybody likes that, right?
They're like, cleaner and cheaper, that's a win.
Yeah. Plus, you get to be snobby with your yeah, my house is solar. I pay less than you do, and I'm not ruining the environment. Dale. I don't know who Dale is, but...
But now Dale apparently is
Dale's
ruining the environment. So if your name is Dale, please comment below about how that can offend you.
Sorry, Dale. So, anyway...